Stupid camera. Okay, so it's taken the measurement here and it's falling regularly between the 7 and the 8 right there. And again, I just was sitting down on top of there very firmly. The only thing to watch out for is when you're in the corner here, there is going to be a radius right in that edge. So you don't want to go all the way tight to that shoulder. You want to be out just a little bit so that you're hitting the actual wall itself, because that radius will skew your reading as well. So we're going to hold it there firmly. Try to get some white behind there so you can see what I'm doing. There we go. So you're just a little ways away from that wall. You're going to hold down firmly, and consistently you're going to see it catch the same number and slightly there. All right, so just under 7 is what I'm getting there. So I'm going to say, all right, the way we read this is everything is backwards from a normal micrometer. So I don't know how well you can visualize what I'm doing here, but we're past the 500, so we're at 7 right now, but 1 inch 500 is right there. So I'm just adding, and whatever's covered up is what I have to count. So it's 1 inch 500 and 7 thousandths is where we're currently at with that height. So go on here, and 1.5 A, 1.507. And intolerance, plus or minus 1/16. Yes, we're good there. The opposing side here, the same dimension except for it's coming off of the opposite side where the bore is at to that shoulder, and that's 1.5 B. So on that one, we'll do the same thing. Up against here, you can see where that shoulder is at, and we want to be away from that radius, about out to here, firm pressure, and then we look for consistency. So it seems to be stopping right there at about the 4. And again, 1 inch 500 is right there, so we're at 1 inch 504 on that measurement. So 1.504, and yes, we are in tolerance. Next measurement here is the depth micrometer again for 1/4 inch. The 1/4 inch is asking for the face to the depth of that counter bore right there. So we have to change rods now. We're done with the 1 to 2 inch rods. So we're going to take this out, slide that guy out, and trade it back for the 0 to 1. And back in. And good practice here is just to make sure this is reading 0 and true, is to use like a surface plate here. So I can just go on this as a very, very flat surface right here. Make sure it's all clean. And check to make sure it actually reads 0. So we go down, and it might be a couple tenths off, but close enough for what we're doing here. So we can see we're just looking for that 0. If this was off, you know, 5 thou or 10 thou or something, we'd have a major problem, but we're within probably a tenth or two again. So I would call that good. So now we know that it reads 0 when that's perfectly flat. So if we go down and measure our 250 thousandths, it should measure accurately there. So again, you read what's covered up. As I'm just counting out here, I'm gonna get close. So there's 200 thousandths, because I'm right at the 2. This is 205, 225, and there's 250. So I'm guessing I'm gonna be close to that. So I'm just gonna start there. I'm gonna go in. Also, again, notice you're gonna have a radius in that corner from your bore bar, so don't hit right on that corner. You don't want to be tight to that wall. You want to stand away a little bit. So I'm going to go in, instead of going tight to the edge, I'm just going to back it over a little bit, and then I'm going to get my feel here. And as I'm doing that, notice I'm not even using a ratchet. I'm not really a big fan of ratchets. They kind of drive it a little bit too hard. I like to go just by feel here and consistency. And right there I'm getting just under 250 thousandths. I'm about 248.5 thousandths, 249, somewhere in there. So if I want to be particular here, I can write down and say 0.248 and 5 tenths, and plus or minus 1/16. So again, I'm good there. All right. I think that's it for the depth micrometer here. Let's show you just a couple other measurements here. So the micrometer, the standard micrometer here, they want us to measure the 1.25 inch diameters. So that's the diameter of the flange here and the flange here, and then the 1.25 inch over here. So we're gonna do that one as a demo, and I'm gonna show you some optical comparator. The rest of this should be pretty straightforward. So I need a 1 to 2 inch mic because I'm measuring 1.25 inches and it's over 1 inch. So go in here, grab my micrometer. And again, it's a good idea to check this as a standard. So, all right, this is a 1 to 2 inch micrometer, but I can't really zero it. But what I can do is use these standards right here. This is a 1 inch diameter standard right there. This is a 2 inch length, and that's a 3 inch length. So I'm just gonna check this on this 1 inch diameter and make sure that it actually reads 0 before I go and proceed to using it. And there we are, it does read 0. So that means it's at 1 inch at 0. So I'm happy with that. It's just a good idea to check those with a standard anytime you're using the tool, just like we just did with the depth mic. All right, so now we're gonna go out to about 1.25 inches. And the first feature here was called out at 1.25 inches A, 2x. The reason it says 2x is for 2 times, being this diameter and this diameter here. So you wanna measure both of those. And you wanna watch out for any burrs on here, and I honestly do have a burr on my part, so we'll see how that measures out. And I should have deburred this better. That was my failure. So I'm gonna go here and measure that. And I like this micrometer because it's got a friction thimble, so it just slides easily instead of the ratchet. It's looking pretty good. So I'm getting about 1 inch, 1 inch because it's 1 to 2 inch mic, 247. So 1 inch 247 is what I'm getting on that diameter. Now if I go closer to that burr, which I can feel it right there, I'm catching it. Right at this point, it measures about 248. So you want to try to measure it in the lowest spot. And really what I should do is deburr this completely so I'd get an accurate measurement. So if it's on your part, I would suggest deburring that. Otherwise, your instructor's probably going to knock you off a point or two for leaving that ugly burr on there. But those will skew your reading. And you can see there, it's about 1/1000th different because it goes up and over. And it's about 1/1000 bigger right there than what it is right here. And again, you can almost hear it catch on that burr as I'm going across it. So I'm also going to check it over on this side and over here. And again, I think I'm sitting on a little bit of a burr, but I'm getting about 1 inch 240,